Hello and welcome to North Country Matters. My name is Donna Seymour. I'm the host for this program and a member of the St. Lawrence County branch of the League of Women Voters, one of the civic partners for our show. My guests today are Tzintzun Izzo, a St. Lawrence University graduate, and Blake Lavia, a SUNY Potsdam graduate, who are organizers for the North Country Rights of Nature Symposium, which is going to be taking place online on March 22nd. Welcome to you both. I'm so glad that you can be with us today. So let's start by asking each of you to give us a little bit of background on yourselves and how you came to be doing the kind of environmental work that will be happening during the symposium.
Perfect. Should I start?
Yes.
Perfect. So yes, my name is Tzintzun, and I am an artist, organizer, filmmaker, and initially started off more as a filmmaker, trying to capture stories of regenerative solutions from across this continent, what people call Turtle Island, Abya Yala, North America, South America, recording the voices of the leaders, environmental leaders who are trying to fight for a just regenerative future for us all. And from there, we kind of shifted our focus slightly to working from behind the camera, slightly more in front of the camera, but still trying to capture the voices of those people who are doing their best to create a regenerative reality for their communities in the face of the climate crisis.
Very similarly to Tzintzun here, I started as a video artist and also as a more like a installation artist as well, visual artist. And I used to work mostly on memory and historical memory. So what we're doing now, it's kind of a natural evolution of it, like talking about memory and historical memory, it ties very neatly to the history of our environment. And that's how little by little we came to do this kind of work, because in the end, art is a catalyst for any kind of community endeavor that can spark change.
Okay, great. Thank you. That is a great start to our conversation. So the focus of the symposium is to create a Bill of Rights for the St. Lawrence River Watershed, which includes several rivers that all drain into the St. Lawrence from both sides of the Canadian-US border. So let's talk a little bit about how the natural world is being recognized both in law and by the courts as having rights. For example, Panama is the latest country to recognize the legal rights of nature, giving environmentalists a new tool to fight ecological harm. And Panama joins Bolivia, New Zealand, Bangladesh, Ecuador, and Brazil, Colombia, and Mexico, among other countries who've either issued court decisions, enacted laws, or amended their constitutions recognizing the legal rights of nature. And part of that in some of those countries started out as a way to recognize the rights of rivers. So this is a great place for you to start talking about how this is a growing movement worldwide. What's behind the local drive to recognize the same rights here for the St. Lawrence watershed?
So perfect. Thank you so much for listing all of those countries. And yes, each of those places is an inspiration for us as we move forward here locally. Also, as an inspiration, we have the 36 municipalities in this country, United States, which have also enacted rights of nature ordinances or laws. Currently, in this country, we have we have 3 different cases which are kind of pushing the barrier of what rights of nature looks like around the world. We have the case in Orange County, Florida, in which we have the waterways of a county that are suing a developer that is threatening to destroy them. We have the case out in Chippewa Territory in the White Earth, that nation in Wisconsin, where we have Wild Rice, Menonin, which is suing the state of Minnesota for leasing 500 billion gallons of water to Enbridge Extension. All of these cases exemplify how rights of nature, giving the natural world either legal personhood or rights of standing, can be used as a new mechanism to protect this environment. In the face of the climate crisis, it's painfully obvious that the laws we have in place are not enough. In many cases, they're so filled with loopholes that corporations or governments can just do what they want with the natural world. And so in saying that what we're saying in this area is that that's enough, we want to create a new way of thinking, that does not see nature as a commodity, but that sees it as a legal entity that can stand on par with anyone in the courts or in government. And in this area, nature is so prevalent in everyone's life in the North Country, especially waterways. And in the face of the climate crisis, this world, this natural world surrounding us is going to come under increasing threat. So what better time to start looking to create new ways to protect these waterways for the present and future generations?
I actually think when you were just speaking for a moment, it reminded me of the Supreme Court case a few years ago where they said that corporations had the same rights as people. So if corporations can act as people, then why can't rivers and why can't natural societies? So that may actually come back to haunt the people who want to take advantage of natural ways and not take care of them. So that's a very interesting, it's going to be a very interesting process to watch, isn't it, when it goes through the courts. So tell me, who are your community partners for the symposium on March 22nd? Because you're looking to get as broad a group of collaborators as possible.
Yes, definitely. For community partners, we were looking to weave as many connections as were feasible throughout the region. And many of these connections, they go all the way from the Adirondack Mountains, Haudenosaunee territory, all the way down through the valley till we get to the confluence of all of these rivers with the St. Lawrence River. So a lot of these rivers end in Akwesasne. So that we are also partnering with lots of folks there. From the Adirondacks, we're partnering with the Wild Center, Adirondack Diversity Initiative. When we come into this valley here, partnering with a lot of the local high schools and universities. And then when we get to the confluence of these rivers of the St. Lawrence, we're partnering with everyone from the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne to the Native Northeast Traveling College, to kind of bring together as many voices as possible so that we have a true community conversation. Our intention is just to plant a seed for beautiful change to grow, but to do that, it all starts with conversation.
It does, and collaboration is the word you've been using, and I'm pleased to say that the St. Lawrence County unit of the League of Women Voters, we've worked very hard on environmental issues, and we're also one of your partners. So I'm happy that we can support your work this way. So Blake, I think one of the most interesting aspects of the symposium is that you're going to be including and empowering the next generation of environmental stewards, high school students and college students. How will their voices be heard, and how will you make them partners in this process?
So what we have been doing so far in preparation for the symposium and what's next to come is getting together this group of students brought from high schools and local colleges that have been slowly discussing and getting acquainted with the concept of rights of nature. Because even if it is kind of self-intuitive, okay, yes, we give rights to ecosystems such as rivers, when it comes to the legislation or when it comes to be applied into like even to be brought to a community and make it become law, it's really complicated. So the students so far have been attending a series of workshops with international national lawyers that are connected and are currently working with the rights of nature movement and are currently actively making rights of nature legislation happen or enforcing it in courts. So they had that kind of overview, but rights of nature is broad and it has to be applied according to the region where you are. So we decided to also get local speakers that have a good grasp of what's happening and what are the current problems of our region. And they are the ones who told the students what are from agricultural pollution to the industrial pollutants and the water. They explained to the students what are the dangers that we face here, what are the dangers that the environment faces here. So all these workshop have been preparing the students that will be the one that will be asking the question during the symposium to the speakers. The symposium itself is not going to be just talking head presenters, it's going to be more of a debate, and the students are going to be moderating that debate. They will explain the questions that they came up with, and then they will ask them. And then we will hear the local panelists talk and discuss what they think. This is all because the symposium is not the end. This beginning, that's just a beginning conversation. The symposium is the spark for new things to come, so that the students, once they hear the panelists answer their questions, once they hear the public and like the public's question, because we are sure that the public will also want to ask some question at the end of the symposium. And also we are hoping to get some feedback after. The students are going to decide what they think is the next step. There should be the next steps that should be taken, and we are giving that all up to them, if whether they want to create a Bill of Rights, an idea for legislation, or even something completely different, because objectively rights are a colonial construct. So if we can even imagine some way else to protect these rivers and kind of decolonize the system too, I think it will be amazing. So it will be up to the students, and once they have put this together, they will have the chance of presenting it during Earth Day, and also at other conferences, also one in Chile, where they have been invited to present what they have come up with, considering that in Chile too, they are like remaking their constitution now, and they're including the rights of nature inside their constitution.
Well, you know, what's so exciting about this is that we have seen young people all over the world really take on environmental causes and the climate change, and really try to force their elders and their governments to pay attention to this. Certainly the the young folks who were doing that before COVID hit and kind of shut down those kinds of demonstrations were having a tremendous effect visibility wise on a lot of these issues. And so exciting to see that, you're really empowering the next generation, because these are the people that have to live with the decisions that have been made already about these things. And so if we're going to make change, they have to be the change agents. I think this is so exciting. So talk to us a little bit about the format of the symposium. Everything's going to be accomplished online for this part of it. How will that work?
So perfect. So anyone who wants to can register. Of course, it's free. We'll talk a little bit more about the details of how to register at the very end. Mm-hmm. When you register, you will be getting, of course, an invite, which you will then log on. We will be using Zoom for this webinar. For the date itself, for March 22nd at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will begin with a land acknowledgement, which will be given by, sorry, not land acknowledgement, the words before all else, which will be given by Devor Quet, an elder from Akwesasne. From there on, we will give a brief overview of the event and of rights of nature, because we don't expect everyone to know what's going to be happening and what are rights of nature when they just enter. From there on, we'll be opening up to questions from the students. And as Blake said, we'll be dividing it up in a debate style format. So each of the speakers will get specific questions, and then at the very end, all of the speakers will get some general questions that we will be discussing primarily, and this was decided by the students, the issues that face the region, whether that be, as Blake mentioned, industrial, agricultural pollution in the waterways, that be damming, anything else that is harming the waterways at this moment and will in the future. We also will be discussing, as Blake mentioned, the concept of rights, because rights, as some of our collaborators in Akwesasne have been letting us know, are a colonial construct imposed on this continent by the colonist. So we want to kind of discuss, okay, yes, rights of nature are amazing. They're doing amazing things currently. However, are there other methods, other ways to conceive of interacting with our waterways, which are more just and respect the original stewards of this land? So those will be that's the kind of general format. At the end, of course, we'll be opening it up to questions from the public. We have a lot to fit into an hour and a half. So we'll be doing our best to make things streamlined so it can be impactful and educational as possible.
You certainly do have a lot packed into an hour and a half. And would you like to just give us a little heads up about some of the speakers and what kinds of areas they represent, just to get a feel for who we'll be listening to during the symposium?
Perfect. So we have different, like as you mentioned, from different areas across the region. We're going to start in Adirondacks. Of course, we have Nikki Hilton Patterson, who represents the Adirondack Diversity Initiative. And her perspective is not rights. She doesn't have a rights of nature focus. Her focus is making sure that the communities, all communities, that the community's rights are respected, and that all communities' rights are respected throughout this process. We then will have, representing from Akwesasne, Abraham Francis from the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne. He's the program manager for their environmental program. And he, again, does not have a rights of nature focus, but he will be speaking from different perspectives of the work that he's done, hands-on, working with the rivers, particularly the St. Lawrence River. We also have from Akwesasne, Louise Heard McDonald, the clan mother for the Bear Clan, and she will be providing the traditional knowledge perspective to the overall conversation. When it comes to the rights of nature focus, we also have Monty Aguirre, who works with Rivers International Rivers. She has worked throughout Southern Abya Yala, South America, trying to protect rivers, particularly from big damming projects. So she's kind of the international voice. And for the regional voice, we have Saka Yevalier, who is from the Northeast Farmers of Color Land Trust. He also comes with the rights of nature focus, but is based, I think, currently in Rhode Island.
Well, that is a very impressive lineup, needless to say. And I'm glad to see that you have you've relied so heavily on Indigenous voices, because we know that traditionally they are some of the best caretakers of nature, not just in North America, but all across the world, in terms of being very focused on being close to the earth and being close to understanding how important it is to take care of it. So that's very impressive. Blake, the culmination of the process you're starting on March 22nd will be done a month later on Earth Day, in terms of at least this initial phase of it. What do you envision for the second part of the project, the Earth Day part of it?
The basic format.
We can talk about
Okay.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
I'll jump in. I'm so very sorry. So as Blake mentioned, on Earth Day, there'll be a series of different presentations.
Okay.
And again, like Blake mentioned previously, the students will be coming together to discuss what needs to be done. And of course, they're just going to be providing basically a blueprint for different communities to follow. Of course, they cannot speak for anyone, any community specifically, whether that be anywhere from like Canton, New York, or to the community of Akwesasne. They're just speaking from their own experience and everything that they have learned from. And they'll be presenting their final conclusion, their findings, their declaration. It can take any form that they want to do. It can be everything from exact like legal standard documents to a beautiful poetic statement. And they'll be presenting that on Earth Day regionally. However, they've also been invited by the International Forum for the Rights of Nature in Chile to speak and present their work there. From then on, it's kind of up to the community. We can move forward directly into, okay, we're going to try to get this legislation passed either county, town, push for it on a wider regional level. It can take many different forms. But again, we don't want to go into it like already framing the outcome. We want to go into it just saying, okay, here is the spark, this is the seed, whatever happens, happens.
So will this part of the presentation also be online so that people who are part of the event in March will be able to listen to the conclusions in April?
Yes, definitely. And everything is going to be recorded, whether it be this event that's going to happen in March or the events later
Okay.
on. So if you can't make it, you will be able to be updated, and we'll be updating people throughout the process.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. And you mentioned about one of the outcomes may be legislatively, and it could be locally, it could be more widely than that. So are you looking to empower folks to talk to their local boards and the county board to get them on board, so to speak, with some of these protections?
Definitely, definitely. And it can look it can look many different ways. We have talked with many lawyers who are currently working on cases as we speak, whether that be in Florida, out in Chippewa territory. And what they say is that the best way to move forward is direct action. So whether that usually through referendums. So they usually say to keep this as centered on the community as possible, it's best to have the community's voice be heard through, again, signing petitions, and then possibly when it comes to the polls, then voting directly on cases. And it can look differently depending on the town, because every town has its own specific law. Luckily, New York is a home rule state. And what that means is that the towns can, if the state has already permitted them to do it, enact their own legislation to basically take care of their environment. In other states, user-friendly states, it's much more complicated. And in many cases, the towns can't do it very easily. However, if New York State permits the states to do it, the towns can move forward. And the county has, it looks slightly more complicated, but there are some connections with the county. Just to give an example, in Florida. In Florida, the Orange County, Florida passed in 2020, November 2020, by ballot measure, the rights of nature and the rights of drinking water, of clean drinking water for the communities. It passed by 81%. That means people on both sides of the aisle, different political parties, were all voting 81% on rights of nature. For a ballot measure to pass by 81% is almost unheard of, yet it did. At the same time, the state of Florida, the legislative body of Florida, passed a law at the very same time that was happening, saying that no county in the state or municipality in the state was allowed to pass rights of nature ordinances.
Well, unfortunately, that's the state, that's the way that Florida operates. It's very top heavy, and it's a shame, because when you have that kind of support for a local measure who wants to take action and then to be stymied at the state, it's very frustrating. I agree. So let's talk a little bit about how people can sign on to the work and be part of the symposium on March 22nd. How do you register for the event?
So you can go on our website at nocoenvironment.org/rights-of-nature, and that you should be able to register. You might have a pop-up window that comes up, or you just scroll down and you find the registration button. You just put your email, and Zoom will take care of everything else.
I'll make sure to put the links in the show notes so that people will know where they are. And so it sounds like really you've made this about as easy as you could possibly make it for anybody to participate and to learn more about this process. So kudos to you for making it easy, because sometimes people want to take advantage and they can't figure out what the process is, but this looks like very straightforward process. So thank you. So as we start to close up here and wrap up a little bit, do you have any closing thoughts that you want to leave folks with thinking about this process?
So just to jump in, and sorry, did I interrupt you? Okay. Just to jump in and say, I want to thank you personally for hosting the show, for sharing these stories, also for the Northern New York, the North Country New York League of Women Voters, for partnering with us and helping us move forward with this process. It was the League of Women Voters, a member of the League of Women Voters, who pushed for the legislation initially in Florida. Always part of that process. So I want to thank you for being involved in this, and your mission for pushing for democracy at its very foundation is key, because this is what we are striving for, is to kind of spark again the democratic process involving the environment. a democratic conversation in which we bring communities together so that the communities can decide what they want to see moving forward. Because yes, there's lots of doom and gloom. There's from the big news at the moment, from everywhere from what's happening in Europe and Ukraine to the environment, the climate crisis. All of these stories are very they weigh on us. But there are people striving to make beautiful change in the world, right here in this county, right here in this region. So the key is just to bring them together and let the magic happen.
Well, thank you. And I agree with you that bringing people together is the key to solving a lot of problems. And I must say, as a longtime member of the League of Women Voters, I have not thought before in the same way about our voices helping to empower the voice of a river or of a region. So actually, it's a nice way to be thinking about democracy and moving beyond sort of the traditional way of thinking about things like that. So thank you both for coming in today and doing this. And we will hope that you get a great turnout on March 22nd, particularly of the young folks, and that this is the start of something very, very creative and very good for the St. Lawrence River watershed, because it's a place where we all live and love, and protecting it should be at the top of all of our agendas. So thanks again to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So these conversations are a collaborative production of North Country Matters between the St. Lawrence County League of Women Voters and the Potsdam Public Library. Until next time, remember, our North Country matters, and so do our rivers.